right, hello everybody. Welcome to Command Training Thursday. We're going to do DocuSign and commissions today. I will be recording the session to post on YouTube, so I hope that I can touch on all the points that we need. Let me go ahead and put my phone on silent. So today we're going to talk about DocuSign and commissions. Like I said, just to kind of recap how we got here, what we need to know. Earlier in the week, we talked about contacts, how we handle them, what we need to do to keep track of them all. And then we moved on to designs, and we talked about what we can do to, if we want to, what we want these people to see, these beautiful things, these beautiful messages that we want. And then we go on, into campaigns where we can put out all those designs or, text messages and everything you want to do to reach out to your contacts. Eventually someone will respond, and then that creates an opportunity. And once we have created that opportunity, we talked about, we can create it in the opportunities tab, or you can create it straight through the contacts. That way, either way, you need to have someone in your contact to associate with that opportunity. So a contact needs to be in your database already. But once we have the opportunity created, we're going to take the time to fill it out with all the details that we need. And then we're going to connect it to DocuSign. And we're going to use that program to give the papers back and forth to this client that you're working with. And then eventually everything will be fantastic and you'll be able to go on to commissions. So today we're talking about the DocuSign and commissions part. I know that there's widely oversimplified steps in that process, but just to kind of show you the logic of, how we use command going from one to the next thing. So let me make sure I am share screen. Okay, so I'm going to sign into command here. And just like always, I need to change this bookmark. So I'm going to go ahead and just go home. Here we are on the home page. So remember, you can always click this little red slider to see where you want to go. We're going to end up in the opportunities tab today, but I want to take a second, even though we touched on this earlier in the week, go over here to your name, go to settings. We're going to need to make sure that DocuSign is connected so that we can use it properly. So go up here, make sure this says connected here, current status. This will give you a hint as to what your email is when you need to log in later. If you haven't logged in before, if you need to recover that password, it's going to go to whatever email is listed here. If this isn't enough of a hint, then get in touch with me and I can help you recover all of that stuff. We're going to make sure that's connected up here. Once we're certain of that, we will go to the opportunities tab. And we're going to check out an opportunity here. Now we're going to go through the listings. We learned all about how this is organized, I believe, on Monday. So if you need sort of a more thorough view of what we're looking at when we're looking at the opportunities here, please refer to that video so that we can kind of just keep things moving along today. But we're going to go into the listings here. You've got all these different steps. I've got a created opportunity here for training. It's a training listing. Remember, you can move these on down wherever they're supposed to be as the process moves along. And remember, if you get an opportunity all the way to closing, you're going to want to make sure it goes to the closing part of your opportunity. It'll stay there for 30 days and then it'll kind of, it won't be deleted. It'll just sort of, you won't be able to view it here anymore. You can always go to your all opportunities and filter it and see your closed opportunities, but it's a way so that your opportunities tabs don't just get like bogged up with all of your old work. You can always go back and refer to it, but it'll just stay there for 30 days. So make sure you move it over there as opposed to marking it as lost or archiving it. And that will help you tally all of your numbers in command. If you're looking at your reports, it'll help keep those more accurate. So we're here. We're going to click these 3 dots, as opposed to these 6 dots, which moves around cards. 3 dots for more details, and we're going to go to those details. And here we are. So we saw this tab before. I think I talked about it a little bit on Monday. I want to go into it with a little bit more detail today. This is sort of where DocuSign kind of begins. And it may not seem that way, but this is sort of where this program, I think, has some advantages over some alternatives. I know some people like to use .loop. DocuSign is sort of, command is designed to work well with specifically DocuSign, and it starts here. So in the details tab here, again, we're in our opportunities, we're in listings, and I'm in the details of this particular listing. I think best practice is up here to name it the address that this is associated with. I think it helps with compliance later. Definitely get with your productivity coaching about that. But here is where you can start to set up all of the details. You grab this little ghost pencil here, click it, and it'll bring up all of your options. So just fill these out to the best of your knowledge. None of this stuff is locked in on this tab, but you're supposed to be kind of putting forward the most accurate information that is available to you, any of the information that is available to you on this tab. And then over here on the property, this will bring up a search. So we'll go to Main Street, so I always pick, and that will bring up options. So it's not just something that you fill out, it actually has to bring in the data from a search, so that everyone's on the same page kind of a thing. Save that. You'll notice that these went from synced to edited. And this is where DocuSign is starting to kind of play in here. It knows whether or not I've synced up with DocuSign, which we're going to go into a little bit later. But again, we're going to start here. So you're going to make sure that this stuff is filled out and as accurate as you can get it. Once you're confident of all of that, go ahead and sync transaction. And you'll notice that these edits will turn over to synced after you refresh command. And now what that has done is later when we get into DocuSign, these details that you fill out here will automatically move over to DocuSign, and it'll move over to their details field. And as you bring in forms to fill out, this stuff will populate to those forms, and it just helps, save you some steps. You don't have to type in necessarily 123 Main Street every time there's a form that calls for that field, and so on with anything else that has this synced icon next to it. Now, it's not necessarily going to bring in anything. If this was on a form somewhere, there's no button here for it to sync with. It only does, with the data that it's claiming. Fill that out properly. We're going to move on to the seller's profile, which is really not much to do here, but if you're going to use guides, you can manage that here. You can look at the steps, click complete. If anybody wants to learn more about guides, it's absolutely related to opportunities, but come and find me and we'll work on that together. It's a little bit beyond the scope of what I'm trying to get at today. The documents tab, we're going to come back to this because there's really no easy way to kind of find the front end of this process. It's sort of you get into it and it starts moving. So you create this opportunity, fill out the details, then you need to go to DocuSign and create some documents. You're going to come back over here and upload these documents. So this is where you would go to submit the documents, I suppose. So you're going to want to make sure you have the proper list here. So let's say, residential is likely. You're going to pick, listed, under contract, close, whatever step of the process you're in, you'll have to update it as you go. And it'll bring you a little checklist here. You'll see what's required, what's conditional, depending on the nature of what you're doing. And you'll have to upload these documents as you go. Now we're going to see attached files from, right now it's preset DocuSign, but you can't grab anything here because it's looking for a working folder, or it's going to look for something straight from your computer. So if you pick My Computer Manual, these will open. You'll click a browse button. You can search your computer for wherever it is you've been storing your files, your documents, and you can just upload them that way to each of these spots. Now it'll allow you to upload anything here. So you're going to want to make sure that you're choosing, in this case, working with real estate agents, properly filled out, ready for review. That's when you put it in there. So if you're going from your computer, that's how you do it. So if you're working with some other program, you'll have to bring it into your computer. You can upload it that way. But if we can work with DocuSign, I like this a lot better because it takes some of those steps away. So you'll have to choose your working folder, and we'll see in DocuSign in just a minute. When you create a room, which is essentially DocuSign's way of saying opportunity, when we're talking command speak, you're in this space that you're going to handle all of the documents and important things for specifically this opportunity. It's going to ask you for the working folder. So right now it's saying in DocuSign, there is a room called Jonathan Montro's training listing. DocuSign, this training listing, there is a working folder in there. Maybe it depends if you created a folder in there to put things in. You're going to click this to see what folders you've created in that room, which I'll show you how to do when we get to that spot. Or if you haven't created any folders, it's just going to say room docs. because if you have no folders, this can see just whatever it is that you have in there. Once you've chosen the destination from, so right now it's looking for the room docs in DocuSign associated with this listing, you can then choose from a list of documents that are associated with that room. I don't have any documents in there yet. We're going to bring one in today. And we'll see then that this field will populate with whatever it is I brought in there. Hopefully I can come up with a PDF on the fly. So that's where we are on the step right now. So we have found our way through to the go to transaction button. Now this is the button that you're going to click constantly. If it's the first time, it'll say start a transaction. So I'm going to go all the way back to the start, and we're going to find our way all the way back to this button because you're going to need to know this workflow. I might do it 2 or 3 times. So let's start from the start. Let's say you're at the home and you're like, I need to get the DocuSign for an opportunity. It's a thing that I need to do. Okay, so here we are. I'm logged into command. I know I need to go to opportunities. So let's click that and go to opportunities. Next, you need to find your opportunity. Click that. There it is. You're going to go to view details. You're going to move over to documents. And then you're going to find that button. Click, and that's going to take you into DocuSign. It's going to ask you to sign in. And then this is going to take us into the room in DocuSign already associated with this opportunity, straight to it. You don't have to navigate around. You can navigate around DocuSign from here, see your other rooms, interact with them, but don't get lost. If you want specifically this transaction to be worked with, then you're going to want to stay here in this room. John Montrose training listing. Okay, let's do that one more time. Even though I know you can record on YouTube, I'm going to do it one more time anyway. So let's skip the rewind. So we're going to go back home. We've signed into command. We're at the home page. Where are my opportunities? They're right here. A little handshake. Now I'm in the all the sales pipelines. I'm going to go to this one, training listing, 3 dots, view details, moving over to documents, move over to go to transaction. It might say start a transaction. It's the same button if you haven't created a room yet. We're going to go into DocuSign. If you've already signed in, it won't ask you to sign in because it already knows that you are you. So that's how you get there. You're going to frequently get here and understand that it's going to create a new tab. So that's if you're working with a Mac, that's considered a pop-up. So you're going to want to make sure you deactivate your pop-up blocker, or you'll run into some trouble here if you're working with something that has pop-up blocking and it doesn't bring you through to the room as we just clicked through. Disable your pop-up blocker, call me and I can help you figure that out. I think that Macs automatically have pop-up blocking with Safari, so that can be a little bit of a sticking point. But do notice that you're in another tab. So command's still over here, DocuSign's over here. So it stands to reason that people will just open a tab and just go to like DocuSign. You have to spell right. DocuSign.com. We'll see what we can figure out. So there it is. So I could log in here and go into my account in DocuSign. And you can interact with your rooms here. I discourage it. Don't especially do not create a room this way, because you can just go over here and you can find it. Right now you're in e-signature, and you can move over to rooms, DocuSign, which is the one associated with command. And the drawback is if we're in command, I have this opportunity and I have this go to transaction button. If I went to DocuSign in a new tab and I created a room there and I named it exactly what the opportunity is, it'll never sync up with command. It won't know how. It doesn't go backwards that way. So you have to start with command and let command say, okay, I'm creating this room in DocuSign, and go that way. Once it's created, you can interact with those rooms. I still very much recommend that you always get to your room through command, if for no better reason than to very easily find exactly the space that you're working with, guaranteed. So go to DocuSign through command and you'll always be okay. Go to DocuSign through command through the opportunity you're working with. You'll definitely guarantee to be okay. So I would say definitely just make that a habit. And this way you don't have to worry about, can I go to DocuSign around this time, or do I have to do a thing that said, don't mess with all that. Just go to command, go to DocuSign that way. You'll always be okay. So here we are, DocuSign, we're in the rooms. I don't have any documents in here yet. Again, rooms, the documents in this room, the room is the opportunity. So we're in the step where, okay, I'm interacting with somebody and I have to send them a thing, whatever it is, working with real estate agents, or a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. I don't know if you want to. But you can upload things to here and get them to sign it and then send it back to you when it's signed. It's officially signed, and then you have this thing. Okay, so let's get from A to B on that. Let's go to upload documents because I don't have anything to work with here. Or I'm ahead of myself. Let's pump the brakes. I don't have an NRDS number because I'm not licensed, but if you're watching this video, you probably do, and you're going to want to put that in here. Why? Because when you go to add DocuSign forms, it'll give you access to pre-filled forms for you to work with, so you don't have to move around all the little signature boxes, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But here you'll see it says no access, and you're going to need these forms to do, real estate-y things. So if you don't have access, it's that's a bummer. Down here, I can bring in some stuff. So I'll bring in the KWW9 form just so that I have something to work with and add selected. So when you have access, you would bring it into your room in the same manner. But let's talk about getting your NRDS number in there so that it says you have access. Click your name. You're going to go to Preferences. We're going to move over here to Integrations. You're going to go to Add Provider. You're going to click the blue R Realtor, National Association of Realtors. And you're going to make sure your name is right. And the association is now alphabetized. It didn't used to be. This is way easier to find what you're trying to get. Where'd you go? I'm going to look for the North Carolina Association of Realtors. Very likely, because that's where we are. And you're going to put in your NRDS ID number here and validate it. And it'll take a second and it'll be like, hooray, hopefully, because you got your ID number right. If you can't find your ID number for some reason, there's ways to figure that out. Get in touch with me. I can show you how to do that. But it's pretty much critical that you do that, or you're going to have to find all of the blank forms, which you're going to need your NRDS number anyway to access anyway. So you're still going to need to find that number. And then I guess you could upload those and map them yourselves, but we've done the work for you. So why? So let's go back to rooms. Once you've got this filled out, go back to rooms and find your room that you're working with. Now, there's going to be a bunch of rooms because you're going to be so busy and wildly successful that there's going to be a lot going on. So if you're not certain of which room you were just working with, I know it is because I have it labeled as this. Okay, so I'm 100% certain that that's the case. But again, if you're not certain, the best way to be certain is to just do that, save it, close it out, and then go to transaction here again. Now you're certain you're in the right room. So again, that using command to be sure that you're in the right spaces can really just take the stress out of it. There's no reason to stress about which room you're in, just do the thing. So here we have a form. We're going to pretend that this is a form that, we need for a real estate transaction. This is an onboarding form, W9. I wonder if there's anything else that I can work with. Let's take a look. I'm going to review how to get to the forms anyway. Now that your number's in there, add DocuSign forms. And after that, this little no access will go away and you'll be able to choose. I can't, but you'll be able to choose whichever one of these that you need. You can go to the different sets of these in here. You should have access to these things as well. So let's take a look. I don't know, coming soon. Let's do that. Had selected. Okay, that's in there. So we have some forms to work with. You got your thing in there. You would notice that this says sample right there. And if you click it, I think it's still going to say sample. Don't panic, because as soon as you start working with the form, that little sample watermark should go away. You can see that's not here on this one. And this is where, when you just click the form like this, this is where you fill out what I call the boring stuff. So I'm going to say that there's the boring stuff and then there's the fun stuff. We're going to do that later. So the boring stuff is the stuff like the printed name as opposed to the signed name, the address, the phone numbers, anything that you could type on your computer and put on a form and print out in the printer before someone would have to handle it and sign it. I'm going to call that the boring stuff. So I'm going to close this for a second, because if you go over here to details, which is right next to the documents, we're in the documents room right now, go to details. And here you can go to the edit button, and this is the same idea as what we were looking at before. I'm going to switch tabs over to command and go to details over here. What I was talking about with the synced, this stuff moves over to DocuSign. So it should be over here on this tab in DocuSign. See that it has like my name is here. I didn't fill that out. My email, I didn't come in here and fill this out, but I could come in and fill out all of this stuff. 123 Main Street, that wasn't there. I uploaded that address moments ago in this recording. Now it's populated here. So So if you go through and fill out, seller one, those details, seller two, any of the details that you know, and make sure you save it. We'll miss that button. Make sure you save it to keep it. Go to documents again. When you bring in a document that has fields that knows to call for those details, it'll be filled out already. Now these documents aren't mapped, I don't think, to call for those fields. So you're not going to see an example of that necessarily unless we're really lucky. Yeah, normally it would, because this isn't just like name of whoever it is, because it's calling for something that would be like seller name. This is not what that's called. So these weren't mapped for that because this is a taxpayer identification number certification and has nothing to do with buying and selling of houses directly. But you can click the fields here, you can see them glowing, and you can put in names and stuff and anything that you need to do to fill out the fields, right? So I can put in this number, that number, this number, whatever it is you need to do. All that stuff should be ready for you to fill out. So you fill out all of this boring stuff and, whatever it is that you've got to do. Again, right now you're setting up a form for someone to sign. So all of the boring stuff. Once you've got all the boring stuff set up, double check it and save it and close it. Now, if this was a form that was mapped, that had stuff like seller one, seller information, or any stuff like that, and you didn't fill out your details over there, you put it in this form and you saved it, it goes backwards. Now I can't show an example of that because again, this is not a form that would do that. But if on that form, there was a field, for instance, called seller one's home phone number or something like that, it would fill in this details field. So the next time you filled out a form, it would just populate for you and so on going forward. So it goes both ways. So this is, again, one other reason why I really like DocuSign. I don't really know the features of .loop with specifically this topic, but I know that DocuSign does it, and I think that's pretty cool. So let's get back to documents. You got your document, you've got the boring stuff filled out. Now you're getting ready, you want to send it to somebody so that they can interact, so they can sign it and you can get it back. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing and we're going to take this piece of paper and we're going to, quote unquote, put it in an envelope to send it to somebody. So in order to do that, you've got to open an envelope. Now there's going to be some options here to do that, but they're not here right now. So if you're looking to open an envelope, you don't see these options, it's a sure sign that you haven't selected a form. You can see how those buttons appear and disappear. So pick which form that you want to put in an envelope, and you'll have some choices. And you're going to want to put that in an envelope. And I know what you're thinking. You should probably click that envelope icon to create an envelope because that makes a lot of sense. I think that makes a lot of sense, but that's actually the email button. It's a trick. Don't do it. We're moving over to the pen because pens look like envelopes. I don't know, maybe for signing. I think that was a poor choice. Anyway, so we're going to create an envelope with the pen icon. A little bitter about it. So now we have an envelope. It's open. You've got this form in here. Okay, now we're going to get it ready to send as an email to somebody. So let's say you've got to name this envelope. Now, what this is doing is when you're in your room, you're going to click a tab that has envelopes. You're going to have multiple envelopes because you're not going to send, someone you're working with just one set or even just one form to sign. There's lots going back and forth. So in your envelope, you can put multiple forms, send them all out for them to sign. And then they'll click to sign all of them and you'll get them back. You're going to have these envelopes in your room that you're going to want to try to keep organized. You're never going to see all of the envelopes in DocuSign all in one space. At least not that I found. Maybe you can, I don't know. That would eventually be way too many envelopes to sort through anyway. So if you're in your room and you've got all these envelopes, you're going to want to name them something that will help you understand what's in them. So you don't have to click each one to figure that out if you're going back and looking for something. If you're looking for the working with real estate agents form, but you never filled out this field, every single envelope in that room will say, please DocuSign. And you're not really going to know which one has that easily. You'll have to click it and look, or you have to look at some other, some other thing like last modified or something like that. So name this something else like REA, or some people have a very structured process of forms. So they could say, like round one, because every time they send out some forms, it's always the same step of the process. And they know that if they go to any given room and they click an envelope that says round one, they're very likely going to find what they're used to finding in the round one envelope. So just structure it in a way that makes sense to you. You can just, call it, the document that's in it, whatever. Give yourself a clue so that you can figure that out. So we're going to say, first one just cuts. Now you've got this form. We can click to view it, but I would like to notice that we can't fill out any of the things anymore. These things are no longer clickable. It's like this already came through the printer. We did that in the other room. Now we can go back and we can modify all that and then create a new envelope and put our modifications into the envelope. But we've already done the boring stuff. Things have been checked, So you can download it from here, I guess. If you wanted someone to sign it by hand because it's already filled out, that's a thing you can do. Or you can just print it right here. That's pretty handy. Really, you're just looking at it in this particular specific spot. So let's close that up. So now we've got it. We know we have the right form. I've named the envelope. Now I got to send it to somebody. So I'm going to add a recipient. We're going to use pre-tagged roles. Now in this case, the only person interacting with this document is the quote unquote signer. So I'm going to click that and you're going to pick who that is. If you don't have that person's email address in your dropdown, it's all right. Just click that, add selected, because you're activating the signature spots on the form that are already told to be there. They will either appear or not appear there because you've activated the signer spot right here. Now, if you don't know anything, if they weren't in that little dropdown, you can put that in right here. Put in their email. Now it's set to go to the person that needs to sign this form. So I want to, even though there's only one person that's supposed to sign this particular example, I'm going to add another recipient to illustrate something. We're going to say email address, full name again. I'm just going to put mine in twice. And we're going to say Jonathan Montrose 2, other one, and I'll put in my email address again. Now, ordinarily, this would be two different people with two different email addresses. And you can program DocuSign to send it out in a particular order and what people, when they receive it, what they need to do with this form. So we'll say the signer, this is the person who needs to sign it, needs to sign, or they need to view, receive a copy, specify recipient, or witness for signer, whatever it is their role is. We're going to go to needs to sign for this person. And then I'm going to say that Jonathan Montrose 2 is just someone that I'm working with that needs to be kept apprised of the progress of this form for whatever reason. So we're going to talk about two different ways that we can do that. I'm going to go with needs to view for this one. I'm going to add another recipient to illustrate the other one. So we'll say John Montrose 3. Email again. Have to put it in an email or DocuSign will get upset with you because it's trying to send it somewhere. And if it doesn't know where to send it, it's going to be like, why are we even here? So it'll yell, you get a little like, like error. It's no fun. So we've got right now, DocuSign has got this form. It's set for a signer to sign it. Signer, Jonathan 1, 2, and 3 are set to get this form. One needs to sign, one needs to view, one needs to sign. They're all going to get it at the same time. That's what this is saying right now. Now to illustrate how you can modify all of this stuff, I'm going to show a couple of things. We're going to change this to a 2. I'm going to change this to a 3. If it lets me to. There we go. You can also rearrange it this way. Add 2, make that a 3, but sometimes it gets a little finicky. But you can move it all around just like I illustrated. So I'm going to change this to receives a copy. So now we've changed the structure quite a bit. So I'm just going to call, John 1, John 2, John 3. John 1 is going to receive the W-9 form and needs to sign it. That's step 1. We're not going to move to step 2 until Jonathan Montrose 1 signs the form, sends it back. At that time, when he satisfies the needs to sign, it'll move on to Jonathan Montrose 2. Jonathan Montrose 2, who's step 2, will need to view it. So that means this person will sign it, that'll be satisfied, and then it'll go to this step. This person needs to view it. That means they'll actually have to click the link and open it on their computer, and then DocuSign will be like, cool, he opened it, they viewed it. And then it'll move to the third step, which is Jonathan Montrose 3 receives a copy. Now let's illustrate the difference between that. Receives the copy and needs to view. Same thing we talked about, but when we move from step 1 to step 2, in this example, this person only needs to receive a copy. So in this case, step 2 and 3 kind of are going to happen at the same time. It'll go, this person signs, this person receives a copy. That's immediately satisfied as soon as that sends out. And then step 3 needs to view. That won't be satisfied until they actually open it. So in this case, it wouldn't be so different if I just put a 2 there too, and we have step 1 and a combined step 2 to illustrate the difference between receives a copy and needs to view. So you've got those things, you got this set up exactly how you want it to go. If you want more control over the process, you can just take the people out of there. They'll send your document back. You can, use that document to create another envelope and send that out to somebody else manually each time if you feel like you need to have that kind of control. So just, it's a strategic choice. If you get really, really good at it and this is really boring and run-of-the-mill stuff, then pre-program it, send it to one person, let DocuSign bounce it around. You'll get it back when everybody's done signing everything. Hooray. This is the email subject and message that they're going to get when this goes out. So we're not quite to where the signatures happen. We're almost there. We're almost in that spot where everybody thinks, like I'm thinking DocuSign, where I put all the initials and signature stuff. We're getting there. That's on the next step. So email subject. You're going to want to make sure that, someone's going to get this email and you're going to make sure that they know that this isn't just like spam from some random internet source. So you're going to want to say something like, your name or something that identifies it as you. So like Jonathan Montrose, DocuSign this form, or you can name the form, or you can say thank you, whatever. Email message, you're going to want to type a great message here and make sure people know why they are getting this email. Let them know what they have to do in that message. So they're going to get this email with this big button at the top that says click this thing to sign all this stuff, and then you're going to have this little space in the bottom that's that says whatever it is you type in that message. So it'll be like, hi, this is me again, we talked. Click all the things on this, get in touch with me if you have any issues. All right. One last thing before we move on to the actual signature fields. You go to this little more here, you can add an access authentication, which is just a little passcode, and a private message. So access authentication, you're going to want to put in something like a code, whatever you want it to be. And then you can put in some private messaging here. Now, in this case, this signer will get an email. They'll have to have this access authentication to open it to then sign the thing. So you've got a little security layer there for whatever reason, if that's something that's important, you can do that. You're going to want to add a private message that says like text me for this code, because if you just put in the code, then someone's going to get an email with an authentication thing that has a key attached to it. It's like handing someone a locked chest and also the keys. So there's really kind of like, why don't we lock it? So, put in that message that reminds them to text you for that information. And then you can move with that. Discard those two things because I don't need them. Down here, if you just put in a private message, you can be like, hey, what's up? And then when you send all this stuff out, this person will get this private message and that one. Everyone gets this one. Only this person gets this private message. So make sure, you can kind of work with that if you need to do stuff like that. Moving on, we're going to move to, you can save and close. So if you're getting envelopes kind of queued up, you can pause here, save and close, come back to it when you need to send the next thing, or if you're waiting for something to happen, for whatever reason. We're going to click next. And now we're kind of getting into the space that's everybody thinks about when we're interacting with DocuSign things. Here's the form. Now, ordinarily, there would be something here already that, let's figure out where actually, here it is. Oh, this one already has it. This is what I'm talking about, because Jonathan Montrose 1 needs to sign. This stuff's already here. I didn't put it here. I didn't put it here before. I brought this from my library. I wasn't expecting it to be here right now, honestly, but it's just here. So you're going to be working with forms that have places for people to initial and sign and where they need to be dated. All of that work is done for you if you put in your number and you use the forms that are in the library. The forms will be here and most of the work will be done. So all you'll have to do is scroll through it and make sure it's appropriate for the specific thing that you are doing with this person. Double check it all. And then in a perfect world, you'll be able to just send this thing on out because it's ready to go. It's a little send button here. Once you get really, really comfortable with how DocuSign works and you know that it's working the right way, you probably just go on and do that. Now, let's say, okay, we get to this step, but someone else needs to sign this thing for whatever reason. You can do that usually by adding a signer here, but not in this case. So you can, let's say, go back. Let's go back one step. so that I can illustrate the two people differences. So let's get rid of, well, let's just add another person. Add a room participant. I've already got one of those pre-tagged roles. All right, we'll go to next. So I'll just talk us through, rather than wasting time on the recording for everybody, we'll just talk through what we need to do. So up here, you would be able to rotate between the different signers. They would have different colors. I think the next color is sort of like a light blue. So right here, you would notice that all of these fields are yellow. If you clicked the other person, John Montrose 2, if I had them, all of these fields over here on the left, they would turn the associated color with however many signers you have. You can have like 5 or 6 if you needed, if different people needed to sign the same form. They would all have their own color. Player 1 is always yellow, player 2 is always blue, so on and so forth. And you would be able to modify those things. So if you click this over here, you have some options to make it required or unrequired. You would also have the option to change it from, if you made a mistake and this box should be Jonathan Montrose 2 for some reason, you can either delete it, hitting the delete button, Control-C, undo if you made a mistake. So you can either change it over here, or you can remove it, switch to the person that you want, and then grab one of these things and bring that over. That's of the appropriate signer. Another thing I want to highlight about this is that a lot of this stuff acts kind of like a design editor. You can just grab it, delete it, Control-Z, bring it back. I can go like this and hit Control-C and copy it, and Control-V and paste it a bunch of times, and then I can get rid of all of this nonsense all at once. Bye. So it's really easy to work with stuff like this if you know your keyboard shortcuts. Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, Control-Z, undo, Control-X to cut. So yeah, I want it over here instead. Whatever. Those keyboard shortcuts really can save you lots of time, specifically with stuff like this in design. So I'm going to bring that back up. Know your keyboard shortcuts. It's absolutely worth your time to speed up your workflow. So once you're here, you've got all the different signers, all the different things arranged, date, sign, sign. So this is if someone needs to sign. This is if someone only needs to initial. Date sign will automatically populate with when they're interacting with the form. Name is whatever name field is typed up here will appear there. So whenever you filled out as their name, right when we're filling in their emails in the previous screen, that's what will populate here. Another pro tip, if you put it up like this, where the F is where their name is going to start to be. So this will be set up just a little bit. So if you're like me and you like things to be nice and square, where it says full name, pretend that those are the words of their name and put it on the document exactly where you would want those word, like the letters to be. And that's where it will kind of be when you go to view the form. And I'll show you what I mean. We'll get the and full name there. So let's go to recipient preview after we've done this. And we'll be able to see what this form is going to look like and interact with it. Pardon me. How the signer is going to interact with it. So you can look up here. This is the PC view, desktop view. We've got the tablet view, which will load up here. This is when I can use some DocuSign elevator music. There it goes. So this is what it looks like on a tablet. So if you wanted to see, like, did your, the fields that you put out there, are they overlapping? Do they look really funny? Is it hard for people to understand what you're doing? Or you can do it on your phone for the same reason. So this will help you kind of see your work in that way. So you can say mobile view, mobile friendly, or you can say nah. And you can see the whole form this way. So you've got some choices to see how people see it. If you had more than one signer, you can click up here to rotate through them. Every time you rotate through, it will always be a yellow dot when you're there and looking at the form. It will be yellow because if only one person is interacting with the form, you can think of them as like they are player 1 because only one person is doing it, and then player 1 is always yellow. So even if you map them as blue or teal or red or whatever it is, when just that one person who may be red on your color scheme receives it, they'll be interacting with the form, they'll be yellow. Don't panic, they're not filling out somebody else's form. It's just the way that DocuSign identifies the different players interacting with the form at one time. So if this looks great, you can click Start. We're going to go to the PC view here so we can actually see it a little bit better. And we can look right here. Oh, that one's set up. Look at that. So this is another reason why I love that preview. I don't like that that says and then the Jonathan Montrose is like up in the air like that. So what can we do about it? We'll close that. Let's pull it down a little bit more. Let's pull that down there. move it over because it was cutting off that and, right? We can go to Recipient Premium. We can see, do we care about all these square corners? If you're making a template, it might be worth your time. Now it looks a little bit better and you can see kind of the process. So if you really, I like making sure things are squared up like that. If you need to do that, you can kind of just go back and forth and square them up and make sure that they have room, things aren't overlapping. You see the date here is there's enough room for it. Person will click here to sign it. It will say signature because this is just a trial run, so it's not going to have anybody's name. And that's the only thing they need to do, then the little ghost finish will show up here and to indicate that there's nothing else to be interacted with. So you can unclick it and click it. Person can click start. So if they're way up here, they can go here and it'll bring them to wherever they need to sign. And if they clicked it again, it'll bring them to each spot. Then they would sign it and would click finish. Everything would be fantastic. So let's close that. And let's, whatever, let's send it. All right, so I signed some things, or at least needs my signature. So I'll bring this up in my email here, and then I can show you what this email looks like. So I'm going to open it up. I'll bring it over here. So they would receive something that says Jonathan Montrose DocuSign this, whatever you name the title of your email. And you get this little button, review document. Type a great message here. We recognize that, right? So this is how they would receive it. This is what they would see. You can click the review document. And here we go. This is the screen that they would get. So if there was more to this, there would be a little view more thing here. If someone has some options here that you can flip on and off if you're not comfortable with that, but if somebody got this that they weren't supposed to be the person that signed it, they can assign someone else that's more appropriate. So they have those options with that, or void or request a correction. So we're going to go to continue. And this is someone signing. They can click this thing. They can click this thing. You can use your safe signature and all of that. And then they would click finish, adopt and sign, and finish that. And that's it. So we're going to say no thanks. I'm going to close this up. You finish signing. Fantastic. Let's close that. So let me get this out of here. And in your inbox, and I'm not going to show you this step because I don't know what I have in my inbox right now. It would say things like if someone opened the email, or clicked and saw the forms, it would say this person has viewed. If someone got done signing, they'll say has finished signing. So let's rotate this here and we'll notice that I'm in rooms, not documents anymore. We're over to envelopes because I did this first one, this one that we've been working with. Needs to view. Well, that's me. We remember that step, right? So we'll click that. Signer did it. Copy receipt, which means it went to the inbox, my inbox, and now it's waiting for this person to view it. That's me. So you can see that this is not done yet. It's waiting, right? So let me see if I can find an example of some envelopes here. So we can see here's some envelopes here. Some are completed, one's waiting to be signed, this one's completed, this one's, I've saved it, but I haven't sent it anywhere yet. So you can see the different stages of an envelope here. So if I go to a room and we go to, is this the one that I want? Yep, here it is, the one we were working with. Again, if you ever get lost, go right to command, hit your documents, go to transaction, 100% certain that way. Let's go to envelopes. So this is what I mean when you want to name your envelope something, because it's just going to keep populating down as you go. You want to make sure that it says something, helpful, because if you don't, if it all says just, envelope, whatever it pre-populates that, I can't remember right now. The only hints you're going to get are when it was sent out, the time, and last modified, and maybe you can deduce, or you can just tell yourself what it is. So click this. In this case, I need to view it. So I will view it. I am preparing to view it. We have viewed it. Close. I just got a notification in my email that I have viewed it. Let's take a look here. Okay. You have successfully signed your envelope. Hopefully this will update with a green check mark. There it is, first one completed. So we've seen, gray means you're working on it, and then I think, what was it? Blue is like it's still being in process, and we got green, all done. So we've gone through all the steps. We've sent it out. We've seen how we map it. We've signed it. We've gone through the different steps of everyone's interacting with it. Now it's back. So I have this form now. We have this form now. It's signed. We did it. But what do we do now? Someone needs to see it, or what's the whole point of this whole thing? So we can go to documents and see it all. And this is where I can illustrate the whole kind of forms thing. Now you'll notice I've got, two different forms in here that are acting as templates. This is the template that I have filled out with the boring stuff, information that we talked about, but it's not signed because we don't sign a template. We make a copy of it and send it to somebody. So let's close that. This is the copy of this template that has been signed and sent to somebody. So I can click this and I can see that this Jonathan Montrose one has signed it at this time. This is a form that has been signed. And then I get this certification. Every time something has happened, you can see when it has happened. So you got sort of a record of the forms when they've been signed, what the deal is. So if you're ever looking for, kinds of proof or whatever, that's kind of a place where you can go and look. So let's see if I can add the way that I suspect. Actions. So our options: copy, move, email, envelope, download, archive, or delete. Don't delete anything unless it's completely and wildly inappropriate to be there, because if you delete something, you could be deleting your template, which means you won't be able to make another copy of that template to send out for someone to sign. Delete is reserved for, like, if you accidentally uploaded a picture of the family dog and it has absolutely no business being in DocuSign whatsoever, delete that. It doesn't need to be in, get it out of there. But if you just made a mistake on a form or something, don't delete it. You can either update the template or you can archive it, which is what delete is in our heads. We're like, oh, I don't need this form. Let's get it out of the way. Archive that. Now I am looking for a way to create a new folder, but I don't do it very much. So bear with me for a second here while I click around some. Unclick that. Add actions. There it is. Folder. We did it. I found the folder button. I'm very proud of myself. So here's the folder. So let's go to grid view, room docs. I've got this folder. So what's the point of this? So I've got this folder. I can move a document to this folder, I think. Click. And there should be a move option here, and I can click to folder in current room, active rooms, my docs, closed rooms. Boom, moved. So now it's in a folder, in another folder. So I've got room docs is one folder. In another folder, I've got I found the folder button. You could name it something like the important stuff or things I'm working with right now or whatever. So eventually the idea is you're going to have like a bazillion forms in your DocuSign room. You can put them all down here in the room docs folder, but then, maybe you only need a few of them on the quick draw. So you put them, the ones that you're going to need frequently, and there's fewer of, in another folder called I found the folder button in this case, because I'm being silly. You'll find that here. So let's move this back down here. I'll move this up here, because that's the one that's been signed. So now we have the signed thing in this folder. Why did I do that? I'll show you in a second when we go back to command. So I'm done with DocuSign. I sent out a form, it's signed, it's back. I put it in this working folder that we're going to talk about in a second. So let's close that up. All right. So here I am in DocuSign. I probably want to go on and refresh it so that it kind of reconnects to everything. We've done a lot of stuff. So now you can see that I've got some things that I can put in there, because before when I clicked that, there was nothing. But I worked with DocuSign, and now this drop down has everything that I've been working with. So I just did all the stuff in DocuSign that you would normally have to do with any other signature, form program, .loop or anything like that. What I don't have to do is download it, find a place on my computer for it, then open up the browse, open up where I found it on my computer, and then bring it in. I'm skipping all of that stuff because this is already all synced up. So DocuSign is already synced up with the details here. DocuSign already syncs up with the details in DocuSign, which syncs up to your forms. The forms sync back to the details so that you can fill out your forms faster. And then when your forms are filled out, it's synced up to these little drop downs. So all of these little steps are getting cut out along the way, and it just streamlines the whole process for you. This is why I like DocuSign. So you would have to, in this case, click DocuSign because that's what we're working with. Right now you can't click anything. You have to choose which folder you're working with. We saw the Room Docs one, and then the I found the folder button folder. If you click that, you'll notice that the only thing here is just this one form. Now this is one form. Let me show you what I mean by that. When I go to Room Docs, I've got, because it only shows you things that are signed. So let me move something so I can illustrate what I mean by this, because the drop down can get a little bit hard to read. So these, let's, I don't know, move this up here, see if that helps us out. Move here, refresh it. And I'm hoping this will illustrate what I'm trying to show. Okay, so now I've got two forms here. It looks like four, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really just one and then two. So the hint is that what turns blue is the full title of the form that you're working with. When you move down, you'll notice that this line and this line both turn blue at the same time. So it's 1, that's 2. If you have multiple forms, that's how it breaks up. And that's one more reason why putting something in a folder can really help out, because if you've got forms with longer names, they're just going to keep wrapping around like that. So you might have a, a name that's kind of wide, and you'll be able to identify, okay, if there's only 4 forms in this one folder I need to work with rather than 30. And it'll be easier to find what you're looking for without having to worry about how long those titles are. So it's one more reason to kind of use this working folder option. You just pick the one that you're working with, put it in there, and there it is. Now, when you get everything here set up exactly right, 100% certain that these things are signed properly and that it's time for someone to review it, you're going to click the Submit to MC button. I'm not going to do that because I can also call that the Bother Ashley button or the Submit to Compliance button. This is when it moves on to someone else and it gets locked in at this point. You won't be able to modify it while it's under review. So click that only when you are ready, not just like when you have one thing, because then it'll go into lockdown, someone will review it. They'll look at this list and they'll say, okay, you've got this, but all these things are missing. Bounce back, go work harder. I'm going to remove that before it's too late because this has nothing to do with it. I don't want to bother anybody with my command. So again, these required fields plus whatever conditional ones that are relevant to your thing, get all of those in the way that we discussed how you would navigate DocuSign. Once you're certain that all of that is right, then submit to MC. That's when we'll move on into, people will review it, make sure it's, compliant and all of that stuff. Now, as far as what forms you need, if they're filled out properly, when you need them, for what purpose, and all of that stuff, that's beyond the scope of what I am able to teach. So those are questions for productivity coaches or Teresa, if you're going to talk about the broker in charge. If you have those questions about what we need to do to make sure we're doing it right, those are the people you want to go to. But as far as if you know what forms you need, how to get them into command and get them to be reviewed, that's my piece of the puzzle. So we came all the way around to 11:30 today already, and we have not talked about commissions at all. I think I will. I think I will stop the recording here and start it again, as long as I'm able to do that. And we can see that as a second recording so that someone else can click that if that's what they are looking for. Let me just check and make sure that that is the right thing to do. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so this will be the end. This recording will be only DocuSign, I suppose. And then I will post another one that's a separate recording just for this runaround that's about commissions. We'll see how long it takes me to go through commissions. Bye now.